The doors of the glass-walled boardroom slid shut with a quiet hiss, and in that instant, Margaret Hale made a decision that would shatter her life's perfection. In broad daylight, under the bright, unforgiving glare of polished chrome and clear blue sky pouring through the skyscraper windows, she looked at the outstretched hand of an elderly black man and chose silence instead of respect. The room froze, the air felt heavier, and no one dared to speak. A single refusal, a single moment of pride, quietly planted the seed of her downfall. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel, Good Soul, for more heart-touching stories. Margaret Hale was the kind of CEO who believed control was everything. Her company, Lumorous Tech, had grown under her leadership from a struggling startup into a shining corporate giant. She had worked relentlessly to reach that polished glass office, and the world saw only her power, her confidence, and her success. That morning, sunlight flooded the conference room as investors gathered around a long white table. Among them was Harold Freeman, a quiet, silver-haired investor in a modest blue suit. His handshake had built dozens of successful ventures, and his reputation in the business world was built on integrity rather than intimidation. When Harold calmly extended his hand, Margaret hesitated. Her smile tightened, her eyes flicked down to his weathered palm, and instead of warmth, she gave only a brief nod. She moved on, beginning the meeting without acknowledging the gesture. The laughter in the room sounded thin and forced, like glass about to crack. Harold slowly lowered his hand, and while his face remained gentle, something invisible shifted in the room. No one noticed it then, but something vital had been broken. That afternoon passed brightly, with sunlight flashing off glass walls and clean city streets alive with movement. Margaret felt untouched. Powerful. Untouchable. She returned to her office, her mind already leaping ahead to the future of her company. But the next morning arrived cruelly fast. Daylight poured through Margaret's bedroom window as her phone exploded with notifications. Her inbox was packed, her phone vibrating non-stop in her hand. Investors were withdrawing. Contracts were paused. Stock values were dropping with terrifying speed. Her company's lifeline deal, one that she had been celebrating for weeks, was suddenly under review. By mid-morning, her assistant's face was pale as paper in the bright hallway. Harold Freeman had quietly pulled his support from the deal. Not with anger. Not with threats. Just with calm, dignified silence. Other investors followed, not because he demanded it, but because they trusted his judgment. Margaret's downfall wasn't loud or dramatic. It was silent. Clean. Daytime calmness disguising internal chaos. She walked through bright corridors that now felt hollow, her heels clicking like echoes from a life she was losing. For the first time in years, the control she worshipped slipped through her fingers. She tried everything. Emails filled with polished apologies. Phone calls left unanswered. Meetings postponed indefinitely. Outside, the city moved on under a strong afternoon sun, people laughing on sidewalks, traffic flowing as if nothing had changed, while inside her, everything was collapsing. By sunset the board demanded explanations. By the next bright morning, they demanded solutions she could not provide. Margaret finally understood something in that harsh daylight: she had not been powerful. She had been fragile, insulated by success and blind to the humanity that built it. On the third day, under the clear morning sky, Margaret did something she had never done before. She walked. No car. No driver. No assistant. Just her, the sunlight, and the sidewalk beneath her feet as she found the modest community center where she'd heard Harold volunteered. Children's laughter rang out from open windows. The scent of fresh coffee drifted through the air. The world felt ordinary, warm, and painfully real. She saw him seated by a table, patiently helping a young boy with a puzzle. Margaret didn't reach for confidence. She reached for humility. In long, trembling words, she apologized. Not as a CEO. Not as a woman protecting a reputation. But as a human being stripped of her illusions. She spoke of fear. Of pride. Of how she had mistaken status for worth and power for character. She told him she understood if he never trusted her again. Harold looked at her in the bright afternoon light and smiled. Not because she deserved forgiveness, but because he believed in growth. He didn't promise to save her company. He didn't promise to return the money. He offered something more terrifying and more beautiful, a chance to become better. He told her that true leadership is never measured by titles or wealth, but by how a person treats the people they believe they don't need. That night, Margaret sat alone in her bright kitchen with no cameras, no shareholders, and no assistants. Just her thoughts and the soft hum of the city outside her windows. She began rewriting policies. Opening doors. Changing how her company treated people. Diversity in leadership stopped being a corporate phrase and became a real mission. Respect stopped being optional. Weeks passed in daylight-filled offices that felt warmer, more human. Little by little, trust began to return. Not all investors came back. Harold did not rush to return either. But people inside the company felt something new, dignity. Near the end of this journey, if this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes people can change, and make sure you're subscribed to Good Soul so we can keep bringing you stories that heal and inspire. And before we end, special request, comment the word respect if you believe everyone deserves to be seen and honored. On a bright, ordinary morning months later, Margaret walked through her office lobby bathed in soft daylight. Harold stood there waiting, not for business, not for power, but to visit the community space the company now funded. This time, Margaret stepped forward first. She extended her hand, steady and sincere. And this time, he took it. Not as a victory. Not as revenge. But as proof that even the coldest pride can melt in the warmth of genuine humanity.